the clone stamp in here, we're going to put a selection on first. Otherwise it's going to get it's hard to make it even, and we're going to get some fuzzy edges with it. So I'm going to try with the magnetic lasso. So I'm going to put my cursor in the corner here, and then I'm going to give it a second. We're going to give it a second to figure this out, think about it. Okay, magnetic lasso wasn't working for me, so I'm actually going to come in with the polygonal lasso, and I'm going to click in the corner here. Since this is a rectangular area, this will work really well because it has all straight lines. So I'm clicking in each of these corners. I'm a little off here. I want to make sure that goes down a little bit. So I'm going to bring my cursor down. There we go. And now it'll line up a little bit more even. So I'm just going to get it as close as I can and wrap it around, bring it back to my starting point. And then I have my selection on. Since I want to cover up this area with the stump or the pole as well, I'm also going to select just that area. So I'll come in with my lasso, and I'm just going to kind of circle around this area. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm really just focusing on that edge. Oops, I forgot to do the add. So I'm going to go back and do the unite or add to. So I'm going to start back in this corner. Get this lined up. Helps if you're zoomed in to get it lined up. Otherwise, it's kind of tricky to see. All right, boom. So now I have both of my spaces. So now everything's just going to stay in my selected area. So I'm going to go back to my clone stamp. Oops, that's the brush. I'm going to do clone stamp. I'm going to take from my source point now. I want to make sure with my source point, I'm staying in an area that I would want it to look like. So I'm going to come over to this edge. I'm going to do my alt click once again. And then when I bring it down, it looks like it's going to overlap. But when I click, you can see it just stays in my selection, which is fabulous. I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to take a new source point. Otherwise, the patterns are going to look too similar, and then it won't look quite correct. So I'm going to take a source point from over here and one more, because otherwise that pattern looks exactly the same. And then it's just not as convincing that it's realistic. Perfect. All right, I'm going to do Control D. That's going to deselect. And then when I zoom out, it's a little fuzzy, probably just from the area that I took, kind of had a soft edge. So if I came in from a different spot, that would work better. I can just go into my history. So right now I'm currently on deselect. If I click back to clone stamp, it's just going to bring up my selection again. So I'm going to take a source point I'm going to try from over here this time. So I'm going to do my alt click. That might look a little bit clearer. So I'm going to do another one. It won't look like such a fuzzy, kind of odd look to it. Control D to take that off. That looks much better. All right. So then we took that away and made that disappear. We could also come in and take out the telephone wire here, because otherwise it kind of looks like it's missing, going into the abyss of nothing. So if you'd like to challenge yourself and take out that line going through there, go for it. Our next step, once we finish our clone stamp, is we're going to add more contrast. So you can definitely do adjustments and enhance the color that way, but I'm going to show you a new way that we're going to be able to do that. And we're going to use a blending mode. So we're going to duplicate our clone stamp layer. So we're going to do Control J. And I'm going to name this high contrast color. Okay, so high contrast means we're going to have dark darks, bright highlights, and then saturated color. So all we do is we're going to take this layer, we're going to switch it from normal to probably overlay. So we're going to click on that. And look, already just with a couple clicks, we have high contrast and we have saturated color. If it's too much, because some pictures this would be too much, you can bring your opacity down a little bit, and then it would not show that blending mode quite as much. Or you could try a different blending mode, soft light isn't quite as high contrast, but it really depends on your picture. Hard light looks great as well with really popping that contrast and color. All right, you are going to save this as a Photoshop document and a JPEG. So do save as PSD, and then remember to rename it so that it has the E, the edit, so you know that you've edited it. And then you'll also export as a JPEG as well. The JPEG is definitely the one you're going to want to change the name of, so it's not exactly the same. We'll keep the default settings, the quality the same, so we'll click Save there. All right,